What we're going to get started with today is vibe coding. And what happened is, can see and hear you. Thank you, Katrina. Awesome. This guy, Andraj Karpathy from DeepMind, coined this term vibe coding and said, this is the way people develop software. And in the future, they will just talk about it in the way that they think about software, not write code, and it's a vibe. So that's what vibe coding is. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, Nader is asking about transcription. Let me see if there is transcription. I don't think there is, Nader. I'm sorry. Nope, I don't have that option. I think you would have to have a real-time AI. But what this vibe coding is basically describing what you want and having it give you an output from natural language rather than writing code like a developer would. So what I did today is I just picked an example of writing a simple website. I'm going to just walk you through how that works, and then we're going to see some ways that I update my website. I'm going to talk about the easiest ways for everyone to do it. And then I'll go to a little bit of they go into the details. And I just got a text from someone who didn't get their link. It's probably in their spam folder. So I'm just going to send that to Heather. Sorry about that. So I'm going to show you sort of what I do to vibe code and give you an example of doing a simple website, because I think that's something a lot of us would like to be able to do, and it's sort of intimidating. So to start out, I created a little website. So this is a little meta. We're doing a website that we coded by vibe coding to explain what we do. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to share the screen, turn screen share on, and we're going to, let's do a whole window. All right. All right. Now you should see a screen that says, how does a website move from an AI agent to GitHub and then into Vercel? You guys see that? And let's see if we can zoom in a little bit to make it a little bit easier to read. All right. And yes, Nader, we're going to share. So right now you see a website that I vibe coded. And what we're going to do is we're going to use an agent. We're going to use by default Manus, which is Meta, and we're going to have it create the website. Now, I already did this ahead of time because I want to be conscious of time. So we'll see the whole process, but I'm not going to just let it run so that we can get through it more quickly. But I'm going to use an agent. And then we're going to have the agent write to GitHub. And what GitHub is called a source control platform. So when I write a piece of code, it saves it there. And then when I write an update, it saves the log. And so I can keep on iterating. And if I make a mistake, I can roll it back. So that's the advantage of having it in GitHub. That's the most common practice for people that write code. GitHub is owned by Microsoft. That's a very common platform that a lot of us have access to. Git is the actual technology that runs on there, and Git was developed by Linux, the operating system. GitHub got very popular as a free place to host your code. So that is free. And then we're going to use Vercel hosting platform, but specifically, it's something called a serverless platform. And what we mean by serverless is a lot of times you might have a dedicated server running on the internet or a virtual server running on something like Amazon Web Services, and that hosts websites like that run on WordPress and things like that. What we're doing is whenever somebody goes to your web page, it calls a serverless function and generates what you render in your browser either immediately or it's cached, which means the first time it runs and it writes it, and then after that, it can serve it really, really fast. So all three of these things are going to come together for you to do this. Now, this sounds a little technical, but when you see it in action, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Vibe coding is basically this website. If you want to look at it yourself, it's not like it's a big secret. I just created it. I created it yesterday. I was trying to find the best way, and I'm going to put it in the chat. So there it's running live right now. And so what we're doing is we're going to describe how to create the website. That's the vibe coding. And then what our agent is going to do is it's going to store the website. And then what Vercel does is it looks at GitHub, and when it sees there's a change, it's going to publish it. So all you really need to do once it's all set up is chat with an agent or what looks like ChatGPT. You could use ChatGPT. I'm going to use Manus, and I'll explain why in a little bit. The agent is going to just build your first draft. So you're going to go back and forth. And for this, I didn't give it a lot of detail. I said, hey, I have this class I'm going to do. I've created all the documentation in GitHub, and I want you to look at it, and I want you to create a simple website. And then I said, I want it to look like my normal website, so the same colors. So normally you would give it more detail, but if you already have a website, this is my website. So I use the blue, I use the orange, and it pulled it. I think I might have. Let's get over to, this is what my website looks like. So rather than tell the agent, like I could say I want it in this color. I know this font's called JetBrains and this font's called Verdana. And I think this font's Inner, and this is a certain color blue. And this is my style. I just sort of cheated and said, hey, look at what my style is and mimic it. And that's what I got right here. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk to the agent. I'm going to show you the history, maximize this again now that we crashed so you get a better view. And so we're going to start with the agent. It's going to write the site to GitHub, and then it's going to pick it up in Vercel. Now, all three of these things can be connected, and you're going to use connectors, whether you're using Manus or ChatGPT or Cloud Cowork. All three of these things are different systems, but through APIs and something called MCP, which stands for Model Context Protocol, it allows you to connect to other systems and do so securely, we hope. And then as soon as it's written to GitHub, it's going to get picked up on Vercel and go live. And we might change some things on here. Now let's go and look at, maybe it'll be easier if I just share my whole desktop so I can go back and forth. So I'm going to entire screen, and we're going to share this. And now this is Manus that's going to come up here. Manus is an agentic framework, and it's super easy. And it's super slow to load this. I just see the little bubbles, but we'll give it a second. Let's hope we don't crash again. Come on, you can do it. So Steve had asked, is serverless mean that all functions are called in real time and from an external source then? Is actually you point it at, there's an event, and that event is that Steve's trying to load the website. And when that event happens, it kicks off the serverless function that generates the web page. Or if it's already generated, it could be cached. And yes, we got a winner. What I was showing you, this is Manus. And let me just move this over here so I can see and make sure that what I think you're seeing is, yep. Okay. And Manus sort of looks like ChatGPT. And what I did for today was I have a project in Manus. I just created this project here. And remember, I said connectors. So for connections, I've connected my Manus to GitHub before, so it's available here. I'm going to connect it to Vercel, and you can connect it to Canva. And then this My Browser actually runs a browser, so it can look at the website that we create. And I'm just going to add them. And, oh, hang on. Sorry, I was still in the open. They're already here. So I'm going to turn off my Gmail. I'm going to keep that on. I'm going to keep Canva. If I had assets like logos and stuff in there, I'm going to turn that browser on. I keep stuff in Slack and I have Vercel. So you see all these little connected apps, all that stuff I was just talking about is connected. And then what you want to do is you're going to add custom instructions. I actually cheated a little bit. I said, let's put a set of custom instructions for the website. So this is basically just a list of all the things that I want to consider when I'm writing my website. I want to create a clear, fast, credible, conversion-oriented. That means you want people to click through. That's not necessarily always what you want to do. And I'm going to improve the website. I want always begin by understanding the current site structure. So it's going to look at it. I have AEO and SEO rules. So answer engine optimization and search engine optimization. So it does well in search. I wanted my design to be clean. And I have all of these other things. And if I go back in here, I can add the custom instructions there. And I also have all the connectors that I want to have connected here, and I can hit save. So that's just sort of the instructions there. And right now, this is sort of how I would actually start vibe coding. I'm going to go back because of time considerations, especially for that. And I'm going to just show you one of my websites, what it looks like when it's all set up. And I think I want to do that just because it's easier for me to show you something real being done than just talk about it. So let's go to, I think I wanted to do all things AI's website. So, you know, right here, I did the same thing that we just did for the vibe coding. This is my actual custom instructions, and I can just take it and copy it. And it may be too big for all things AI, but you just add it here. And I hit save. And so I could also have files there. So if I wanted to have my logos, I can go into my logos and let's get some of these logos in there. So it knows what logos to put in. And I just chose 2 of them. So there are files. So all the things you normally gather. But let's sort of look at how the website looks. I'm going to maximize, and we're going to look at all things AI, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a change. And then we're going to deconstruct what happened in the background. This is the all things AI website. I vibe coded this whole website for the first time in about 8 hours. Is there a way to, Steven is asking, hide the chat box? I'm not sure, Steven, if you can or not. I'm looking. Look at no, I don't think you can. Maybe there's 3 oh yeah, there's 3 little, here, I'll show you here. These 3 little buttons here, I think if you click that, Steven, it goes away. So here's the website for the conference that we do every March in Durham. And I actually had it go through and find all the speakers from this year, and it created a directory. I list upcoming events like this that are coming. Right now, I don't have any events listed, partners, and I did not write a single bit of code. But I'll tell you, I just noticed that some of these are, let's see, are they all centered? Okay, they're all centered. If I wanted to change this, I could have it go through and make it left aligned. But what I wanted to do today was, here's something that I want to update is we have all the sessions that are live. Well, they're becoming live. This whole directory I actually created by vibe coding, and it pulled all of the presentations from a Google Drive, and it created these custom pages where it had the speaker, it embedded the YouTube, it went out and found all that, and it found all the related sessions. So this is sort of the end game, but let's just go back and do something very basic. Is I have these sessions AI.org. And what I want to do is say, hey, see all of I want a band right here that says, want to see our sessions from 2026. And we're going to vibe code that. I'm going to pull that across so I can see the chat and still show you all the screen. All right. So right here, you see we have an orange band up here. This is how simple I want it to be. Is I'm like, let's add a orange banner below the hero that says, want to see the talks from All Things AI 2026. And click here for slides and recordings as they become available. And because I've already connected to everything, this looks like it's really easy, and it is. But what it's going to do is it's going to run this virtual computer, and hopefully we'll see something in there that is interesting. But it's going to, it's going to run actually a Linux server. So this is what all a developer would be doing in the background is they would have their development environment and they would connect to GitHub and they would write this code. They might even have a local version of it so they can check it. And then they push it live when it's done. And you can see from this, what it did was it's writing the code for this banner and it's pushing that to GitHub. It's actually checking right now to see, can't see the website source code. So it's asking for more information, and I'll show you where it's at. It's in my GitHub. And when you log into GitHub, it's going to look like this. And we're going to go down here and look at All Things AI. And that is where it's at. I'm just going to say here. And you may even have to nudge it a little bit and say, hey, if it can't figure it out, you remind it. Now it says, oh, yeah, I have it. And it's going to add that change. So what happened in the background before I did that is I created a GitHub account. and then I created a repository. That's where you put the code. Actually, I think Manus did that for me originally. And then I went to Vercel and I gave it a place to host the code. And then I used these little connectors. So in Meta, you're going to go in here to connectors and it's going to give you the options. So I have GitHub right here. And if you click on it, you can manage it and configure it and say, oh, I don't want it to, I used to be part of these repos. I'd say, hey, I want it to be part of Mark's. And then I would use a pass key to authenticate. And then at some point, I've given it a token, which is like a password and username all together that says, this is the secret that says you're the right person to connect to this. And then I did the same thing and so that's why all this is wired up. It's not that hard. And here it's using the default browser and it can control that. I think it's a little faster. We're not doing anything really fancy. I opened the repo. I may have to go add that secret back in. It was working earlier. Sometimes it forgets it. Sometimes you have like a password manager. Password manager is connected with those things. And the thing that's funny is it definitely has permission because it's reading it. But for whatever reason, it doesn't think it could write. So it has to do that. Now it's looking through all this code. And it looks like it's really complex, and it is, but I didn't write any of this. Manus wrote it. And now it understands that when I told it to write the code with documentation, I'm like, in case I lose connectivity with you and I don't have Manus anymore, make sure there's good documentation in there so another agent could figure it out. And that's what it's doing. And now it is writing. While it's doing that, I want to be respectful of your time and show you a couple other things. So I'm going to talk through this, and it's going to sound like there's a lot going on, and there is. But just so you have to refer to, not only did I vibe code the website, but I vibe coded the documentation. And so if you went to that vibe coding a website repo, which is right here, all the details of what I've done is documented here. So all of the technical stuff, what you could do is say, hey, I want to start by, and we could even do this in ChatGPT for the ChatGPT users out there. Let's do, go to my ChatGPT, and we have let's create a new chat. I am not as much of a ChatGPT user as I once was, but this is the thing. I said, I want to create a website and vibe code it. And this is how I'd suggest you get started. I want to follow the process documented here. And so it's going to go out, it's going to read that, and it's thinking about it. We also, just to show you for those of you who are using ChatGPT, and this is the desktop app. The desktop app, I just think, is formatted a little better, especially when you do this. And let's see. Do we go to personal? No, we want to go to settings. They have two settings, apps. And here's the same thing. So it's a little weird. You go to settings and then you click over to apps. And this is how you can see that GitHub is connected. If I go back here, I can also make sure Vercel is connected, and it is. And those are the two things we really need. So this is what you would do. Also, if you look in here, I've created skills, and these are skills that are actually things you might want to do. I created a skill called Site Interviewer. And this is what a skill is basically a prompt with references. So if we go to skill here, you can see that this skill conducts a friendly conversational interview where you could give it the name of your business, or maybe you're just doing it for a fundraiser. It talks about the audience. So maybe if you're in North Carolina, where I live, it's the Research Triangle Park area. You could talk about what pages, what your everything looks like. And if I ran this, which I can, we'll just go here and go back. I copied it and say, I'm just going to confirm this because, yeah, it was just asking me if I wanted to confirm. So that's still building in the background, but let's download this skill. And basically, these are all just prompts with examples, and they're pretty generic. If you really got into this, you could customize the skills to have the same things for your website. Yeah. Steven's asking, so is it fair to say the most of the time if you vibe code something with a repository, typically live in a README file? Yeah, I always ask it to create a README and good documentation. Steve's asking, you are a subject matter expert in website development. You could say that, but I think when you point it towards the repo, it'll have all those skills. It's in the custom instructions. I don't think you need to set a role as much as an objective, which does a lot of the same thing. Like I want to create a fast loading modern website, and let's just pretend that we're having a bake sale or some one-time event. We're going to have a bake sale. And yeah, basically now we've basically have the skill, and this is what we had there. Now it went over to ChatGPT, and we could just say run the skill. You can add your skills here. What's the name of this business or personal brand? Let's just call it the RTP Bake Sale. We are doing a fundraiser for XYZ high school band. And it's going to continue this interview. And if you follow the whole way through that skill, it's going to keep asking those questions to build that out. And I'm just checking in on my orange banner. And it's still going through the code. Now, you see all this stuff that's going on here on the right-hand side. Sorry, on the right-hand side. I just want to make it bigger. It's a bunch of technical code. It's actually going through, it's writing that code. You can see it coming into GitHub. I don't know exactly what any of this stuff means. I have a good idea because I'm a little bit technical, but it's changing all these things. And it's putting in the code that's going to put that orange banner in there. So we got Steven. He made a healthy diet app using Emergent last year. If I wanted to pick it back up, I would tell Emergent to do a better job on README. Yeah, so yeah, if you pick up the code, you can have it analyze the code. And when it analyzes the code, it can see what was happening before and try and sort of diagnose it and add in documentation. Frederick, great question. Is it possible to connect a CMS to the solution? Like many would develop the website based off CMS, but using this on the front end. So yes, I had mentioned that it used something for those connectors called Model Context Protocol. What it actually does is it can use an MCP to connect to the API of WordPress and make changes that way. Some CMSs just have an API generally. I use something to send my newsletters called Beehive, and I have it connect to the API directly. It just makes those updates. So I can just sort of chat with a WordPress site. The reason that I am doing it this way is just because it's faster and it's more flexible to write custom code. And that's what's different. So we've got Steven who made his healthy diet app using Emergent. That's pretty cool. And his use case, maybe it's an iPhone app, maybe it's a web app, maybe it's an Android app, but you would save it into GitHub and then you could check it out and deploy it whatever platform makes sense. Wonder if is Java, Ruby. It's JavaScript in next.js, which is a library for JavaScript. So it's writing JavaScript to do this page. And the reason I wanted it to do JavaScript was because I wanted it to do cool stuff. How do you like that for a technical term? Let's look at some of the cool stuff that I wanted to do on my website, which used to be hard. So this is my website, and I wanted it to pull and create these. These are JavaScript counters. Sometimes you might go use something like Code Ninja or somewhere where you update all the data and then it embeds it in your website. Well, then it has to load across two websites. Ideal way to give it high performance. I also wanted it to do some cool stuff. So I had seen somewhere else that said, hey, that I went and they had cards that turned around. So these are all the things I published recently, like my newsletter. Here is my podcast, and it pulls all of those things and it does these cool cards. And I just described, whenever you do this, I want it to take the feature image, which these are the feature images from the podcast and from the newsletters I published. I wanted it to put the tags in there. So if you see here on Mondays, I publish news. It's called AI Tangle. I pulled that across and linked over to the other website. I didn't know how to do it, but I described it. So Steve's asking, I am paying for Manus and it's usage based. I think it's $20 per month, but depending on how much you use it, it can get really expensive. I'm just sticking to that for right now because it's the easiest one. Nathan asked, do we run this through PageSpeed? And yes, not only do I run it through, I use Pingdom for speed testing, but I also do SEMrush. And SEMrush is an SEO platform. Now, I don't run it all the time, but when I coded it, I just signed up for a month. I wanted to do the site audit to see how well it was loading. And so I didn't configure all the links, but what I wanted to do was see if it had good search health. So the site itself, 100% on that one. My personal website, which I hardly send anybody to, didn't have a ton of, wasn't all that high. It's only a 75. So I need to fix all those things. What I can do then is actually give it the API key and have it go look at all the things in here and then automatically fix that. This orange banner, I thought it would be a lot quicker. It is not being quick. And I'm just going to zoom in one more time so you can see it. AEO demo site up here in the upper left hand corner and remove that. And so we'll go back to Manus. We'll go back and see. Before we did it, as soon as I went to plan B, here's the all things AI stuff. So this is what we ask it to build, and it's going to go back there. So I didn't code that in there. It followed my directions and I coded that. You can see that now it's got the orange bar that we ask it to do, and it did all those things. So I covered a lot of stuff, and I'm going to let you ask some questions if you have it. But if you can do this, the thing I really wanted to show you was just the fact that you can just type what you envision your website to do and have it do those sort of tasks. So before I get back, I'm going to just share this screen one more time and hope it doesn't barf. That's the technical term is, and we'll take that out. And let's see. There's the orange bar that we ask it to write. And I didn't write any code to do that. So Steve's asking, is JavaScript the code of choice? For Vercel, that's where their specialty is. Guillermo Ranch is the founder, and he was big in the JavaScript space. So I chose JavaScript because it can do all these cool things. Like you can see that I have the little stars coming through the background. It's JavaScript animations. I have a counter. For the bake sale example, you wouldn't have to do that, but there's all sorts of things. So I have an FAQ on my homepage. I didn't code any of this. I actually asked it to interview me to do a lot of that stuff. I had all my partners listed on another page, so I had it go look at our 2026 event and pull it across and format this. And then I had it create links to my other things and in embedded pictures that I gave it. All of this, it sort of designed it on its own. I sort of gave it broad strokes that said, I want to use this font because this is the font I use across it. I wanted to use this font. I want it to be clean and fast loading. I think someone asked about that. If we use speed test. So if I use speed test and I put in this, so I could really do it. I'm going to use DC because it'll show it the fastest and that's the closest to me. But if the people in Germany, and I was really worried about that, I would test for people in Germany. And you can see that it's, got an A. So that's one of the things I think is really hard when you use a CMS. So when you use a CMS, there's usually a lot of like bloat in it, and the JavaScript does that. If you want to see what I didn't do well, is you can compress components and make it a little better. You can use this tag that's expire headers that forces people to reload the page. But the things that I normally forget to do is sometimes I forget to fill the alt tags in. I don't always make the fave icon small enough. I use too big a thing. I made sure all that the pages didn't have any broken links, and that's where that A is for that. So let's see what other question. Steven is asking, can you explain me serverless like I'm 5? Okay. So imagine that you have this website and it's hosted on a product called Vercel. And when you go to www.allthingsai.org, it calls that website. And so it uses domain name service that says, hey, go to this IP address and try and load this thing. And when you go to that IP address, what happens is the serverless provider says that Steven is asking for all things AI, and we need to provide that web page. So it runs the serverless function that builds the website, or if it was just visited, it's in a cache. So it's already built that page and it serves it back to your browser. So just imagine it's a conversation between your browser and the website, and it says, hey, I want to see this thing. The website says, sure, I have that thing. Let me show it to you. And in the background, what's happening is it's building all that. Hopefully that's decent enough. Billy is asking about Gamma and even Hostinger. I think either one is fine, but here's why I like, and we're going to go look at the back end of Vercel. So these are all my websites. We're going to go to the billing. So you can see all the activity on there. And the reason that I like it is because it's super inexpensive and it's super high performance. So I'm halfway through the month. I have to pay $20 to host all those websites, and it's costed me 92% or 92 cents out of $20. My hosting at Hostinger or some of the Bluehost or other places are probably going to be a lot more than that, and it has a lot more features than I need. This is bare bones, and V0 is the name of their hosting product, and it's free if you don't have any of the commercial things. So if you just go to v0.app, you can also do a lot of what we did today. And I just put that link in there. So you could even have it create all of this on v0.app. And if you look up here, it shows you how many credits. And when you run out of credits, then you'd have to pay. But it's not that expensive. Like I just showed you, I think I have how many websites on here. I have my main website for the artificially intelligent enterprise here. I have all things AI. I have some other projects. I did this AI toolbox. This is another vibe coding project I did just to play with it. I'm sorry. I already moved this onto my website, but I did it as a standalone, so I could delete that one. I'm working on some other projects, but you can see that all of these, there's a lot of activity there, and it's not expensive. Yeah, that's how I spent my 92 cents, and that's been 13 days in. So let's just say I might spend 3 or 4 bucks of my 20 bucks, and it's still a lot cheaper than one of the other hosts. Steven, does serverless impact capacity for how many users can access the site? Or is it just a way of delivering information from a fully functional website? It is a fully functional website, and it does scale really, really well. Let's just say that one of the things that it does well is, and why it does that is, it's got all the things that you want to do. You're also using something called a CDN, and what a CDN is it caches your website around the internet to make it closer to the people that are requiring it and doing it. It doesn't have to send it the whole way from a hosting here in North Carolina to this person over here in Sydney, Australia. And you can see all the places that Vercel is mirroring and where it's pulling from, and you can push it to all those different things, and you can see all these requests. Now, all this sounds really complicated, but the thing I like about it is it's all very inexpensive and easy to turn on, and everything has a menu to do it. And if you're not sure how to optimize any of it, what I would say is just ask questions. So if I said, hey, is this site optimized to be delivered all over the world via Vercel, and will it handle a lot more traffic? So, and I spelled traffic with an E at the end because I typed too fast. But yeah, that is, so I'm just checking to see how many people I kept who stayed on. Is it's gonna look at how Vercel is set up. So we're in an hour right now. I had some crashes. I'm happy to answer questions as long as you have them or show you anything else. But yeah. And Nathan's thanking me for Whisper. I use Whisper Flow to talk to stuff. I could even talk to my website if I wanted to and say, hey, I use Whisper Flow to actually go through the website and record all the things I liked and disliked, and then I just cut and paste it right in here. And that's how that would work. Omar's asking about sites.google.com, vibe coding with Gemini. I don't know. That's a good question. But thanks, Laura. I see you have to drop. I appreciate you too. Thanks for coming. I hope this was valuable. So right there. The takeaway of me showing you this was this sort of, I reviewed the website, and it's actually looking at all those technical things that most of us um, do. And the LLM can translate the deep tech stuff to the thing you want to do. So we wanted to see if this is highly if it's going to load and scale, because I think one of the 18 Stevens on this call Steves has asked me that. And now it's looking through and is inspecting everything and doing some analysis. But the question that we have here is, how do you create skills? And you can actually, there's a skill creator, and I just chose it from the list, but you can always do / and you can do skill creator. And, when this is done, I'm going to say, create a skill to evaluate website performance on Vercel. The best way to create the skill, or the easier thing to do, is for you, Steve, is have a conversation, and afterwards, after you've gone through a process and you want to document the process, you just ask it to create skills. And I can create the skill in Manus. I can do the same thing in Claude. Claude is how I work most of the time. And I do the same thing. I have a project set up, and I want to do all things AI and update that. I am slowly adding more and more things, because the reason I like Claude is you can pay a bigger monthly fee and it's all you can eat. And that's how you do that and they have a skill creator here. So if I go here and I want to add the skill, I can either add one that's already done, or I can do the same thing here, and there's a skill creator there. And I could say, create a skill to audit the website for broken links. And it's going to, and notice these are all pretty things that are pretty common knowledge. If you were doing something specific to your business, you probably would need to say, give it more specifics. So let's see. We have 18 of the 127 of you left, and that's a lot of people. So I want to be, we made it this far. I hope you have all of your questions answered. We'll just watch this skill continue to build. And when it's done, it's going to add here in this context window, this is Claude. It's asking me for permission. I'm going to say always allow making skills. And for each project, you're going to have skills and permissions there. But we're also going to go back to Manus. And it's still looking at that. It's a little bit more detailed, is the skill it's creating there, is it's trying to figure out if that'll scale up or not. But the prompt is still in the box there, is create a skill to evaluate website performance on Vercel. Oh, thank you, Gomar. I'm glad you had a good time. I didn't overly promote this one because I didn't want too many people, because it's the first time I did it. And I wanted just to give you ideas of how this could work. I also wanted you to have that sort of vibe coded repo here to go back and reference, because it's not a bad resource. And I'll tell you honestly, I didn't read every single thing about it. I just talked to it for a while, and it built this out. And then I said, these are the kind of skills you might want to use. So, you might want to use your own, you want to update it with your own brand voice. You may want certain images to look a certain way. If For example, I've done that with a skill for my newsletter, and some people love the images, some people hate them, but notice that all of these images look almost identical, except for this one's sort of weird. That's Christine's on here. I don't know why that got cut off, but basically I say, hey, I want you to take a theme and generate the same kind of image every time. When it comes to creating forms, you might have a certain way that you want to do forms. You might use something like Jotform or another thing you embed. I already had a link checker skill, and just so you can look at what it says is, it says, this is the skill. It's going to check all the links on my website, find them, and fix them. And then it's going to keep monitoring that skill every time I write it. I could even keep a little log, and it even understands the kind of code you get back there. So, yeah, Ramil, there will be a recording. So hopefully this is a good start. I'm going to let you get back to work, and I got to do the same, but hopefully this was useful. You can always drop me a note at mrhinkle@theaie.net, or, I think this is COVID. Yeah, Steve, I was wondering if we were going to make it to 201 or 101, but I think it's a good start because it's so powerful and we spend so much time doing this, and we never really get to tweaking it because you spend so much time explaining it to a designer, explaining it to a webmaster, and then when you need to make an update, usually the back and forth has so much overhead. Like for me to just go in and say, hey, I want this orange bar on here today, which is what we just built. That's sort of cool. I didn't have to tell anybody. I just said, hey, this is what I want, and it did it. And sometimes I will put it to staging. So I created a staging and told it, hey, before I make things live, I want to look here. And this is for my business website. And then if you see, I just change it over here, and this is the live one. So if I had something that I wasn't sure how it's going to look, I'd stop there. Like one thing I just noticed is I think there's a lot of black space here, and maybe I want to move that up. I could have it crop the hero and say, hey, get rid of that vertical space. I'm not sure. I have to look on it on a phone, but yeah, thanks for everything, everyone. Hope you had a good time, and we'll try and do some more vibe coding in the future. See you later.